Yo, what's up, self-started gang? I'm sure you're surprised to see my face and Alex's face here, but we are back after a 3-year hiatus. Alex, how's it feel?
I'm feeling good. Yeah. It's been a long time and I'm excited to bring back the podcast. Yeah. Today we have a special episode for you guys. We're actually gonna react to our last episode that was actually filmed 3 weeks into COVID 2020.
Yeah,
Yeah, the very beginning of COVID.
30 waves into lockdown. At this point, I'm still living in LA by myself. Alex is living at home,
Yeah.
and we are in a completely different stage of our lives. I mean, we have our TV pulled up with the video, and first of all, we both look so different than we do now, and just everything about it is just like a blast from the past. So we're gonna react to that first and see where our heads were at back then, and give our like updated thoughts on some of the topics we might have discussed there.
Sounds good.
And then we're going to give you the life updates from everything since that podcast. So,
Yeah. So welcome up guys, and enjoy the podcast. Cool.
start this.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Self-Started Show, Coronavirus Edition. I'm here with Alex. It's me, Mahim. We're back after a long hiatus. Alex, say hi to the folks.
What's up, everyone? It's been a hot minute, and a lot of things have changed in the, I guess, in the world space. We're in the apocalypse now.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to try to talk productivity and staying productive while we have this circumstance going on that is unprecedented, like we said in the non-recorded podcast. But a lot of people are down right now. They're scared.
By the way, that's so relatable because we had our fair share of logistical problems with recording podcasts back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the second time we've actually met in person for a podcast.
Yeah, most of it we had done through Skype when we interviewed someone or when it was just you and me.
Yeah.
Because we're long distance. So this actually is pretty new for us, despite the fact this is like episode like 19 or 20.
Yeah.
All right.
and they're not really certain about what's going to happen in the future, and that uncertainty can kind of cripple a lot of people, make them not up to the level of productivity that they want to be or know they can be. So we're hoping that this conversation can not only show you guys how we're dealing with it and trying to stay productive, but also give you some ideas on how you can stay make the most of the situation and try to stay as positive as possible, because it doesn't help anyone to kind of crumble under these tough circumstances. Like, these are just times where we need to all stay strong and make sure that we get through it properly rather than just succumbing to the moment.
Yeah, definitely. It's about working together, and we'll get through this. It's getting better in some countries already. I know the states kind of
It was not actually getting better.
Fake news by Alex.
I think in a couple months we'll look back and this could be
It was not a couple
it was a couple months watching this, and if you use this time effectively and kind of work on yourself, and maybe you might discover a new passion, or you might get that thing that you always wanted to do. You never had the time to do, but now you do because you're staying at home 24/7. But yeah, so we're just gonna kind of talk about what we've been doing during the quarantine, and then kind of give you some tips and or suggestions that might inspire you to take some action during your time at home.
By the way, before we watch this part, do you remember like some of the things that you were doing at that time that you were about to mention here?
No. I think I was in a completely different headspace. I had just signed my lease for an apartment and then I didn't break my lease yet. I was still in it because I thought this would end in like a couple months, like 3 or 4 months. And I had moved back to my parents' place, and I was like, oh, okay, just ride it out. I think I was actually pretty stoked because I got to work from home, so that was kind of cool and like a new experience for me.
For real.
And it was like I was like very excited to have all this free time since I didn't have to commute and like, I guess, yeah, I wasn't really going out as much, so I had more time for myself, I think. And I really don't remember too much of what I said in this podcast specifically, or like where I was and like what I was doing though.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Do you remember?
I think, well, for me, it's different because it wasn't like a transition from like working in a place at the time, because I was working at a company at the time. So
Yeah.
I was at home more often regardless. But for me, I guess it's like you can't go to your favorite coffee shop to do work.
Yeah.
And you can't walk outside without feeling it, but like be 10 feet away from people and like be super vigilant.
Yeah.
So that was new. And like I think I do mention something about like food shortages and stuff later on.
Oh, the toilet paper shortage?
Yeah, toilet paper. Like people going for like all the ramen and like not being able to buy ramen because everyone wants ramen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that was going on. And lifestyle wise, I think I'll need a little refresher on what this guy was doing back then. So let's continue.
Yep. So, let's just jump into it. Alex, what's your quarantine life been?
Yeah, so I live in New York, and I go to work in New York City. So I was taking the train, dealing with a lot of people, and obviously New York City has become like the epicenter for the United States.
I do remember that.
I have been working from home since like March 12th, so almost a whole month already. And I've been living at home, working from home. I have not seen any other people outside my immediate family. Yeah, it's really weird not actually going anywhere and just kind of waking up, going to work, and then signing off. And I had worked from home before, but working from home 5 days a week has proven with some of its own challenges and some benefits. And it's also kind of took a little bit of getting adjusted to in terms of really understanding the whole situation. There were definitely times where I felt that the quarantine was kind of getting to me, but yeah, there's a lot to unravel in that. But how's your situation going on, Mahim?
Dude, I feel like every single day it is just a blur, as in the sense that no day feels that different.
I totally agree. I remember how nothing felt different from everything else at that time.
Yeah.
So it's such an extended. This is as long I've been in my house ever since I moved to LA. Maybe in my life, like I've never been isolated like this. And so, and I'm sure most people that are experiencing this can relate to that. I'm sure the same situation for you. For me, it's been. I mean, quite frankly, it's not in terms of what I do day to day as far as work and play goes. That's not really that different. I'm just more limited as far as where I can go. So, for example, one of the things that was big for me in terms of productivity was going to coffee shops, because I like getting out of the usual environment that I'm in. I think home for most people is a place to relax, have fun, and work is, you could get some work done there, but I wouldn't say that that's where most people's peak productivity happens.
Yeah.
So for me, coffee shops being shut down was a huge bummer. I remember...
Actually, up on that topic, so I think, like I mentioned, working from home is not really optimal for productivity. What was that experience like for you when you were actually working from home, like in the beginning?
I think it was a transition, like not just for me, but for like the rest of the company, like coworkers. So I think they handled it pretty well since I was in a fintech company. So like things were pretty like seamless in terms of like working on my laptop and getting to the resources that I needed. I think most of it wasn't really that bad for me because I wasn't in the position that I really need to interact with a lot of people as a software developer. Like, I would message coworkers on Slack or Teams and get what I need to get from them, or voice call, and it seemed pretty equivalent. So it really wasn't that bad, as opposed to maybe if somebody had a job that was like more in person, or you're meeting with clients or stuff like that, then I'm sure I would have felt it a lot more. But I felt like it was the transition, especially with being in tech, was kind of fine. Go ahead.
And then in terms of productivity, did you feel any drop off with when you were doing at work?
Yeah, definitely. So productivity wise, I think it went straight to gutter, man. Like, I know we're very optimistic in this podcast, since it's only 3 weeks in, and we didn't know what was going to happen. But like, newsflash, the pandemic lasted for like another 2 years. And definitely during that time, I felt pretty down because like I wouldn't see my friends, like I wasn't able to go outside. I felt like I was like wasting away at home. And
Instead of work from home, you're away from home.
yeah, waste from home. Yeah, but really, it just was such a weird time. And I don't know, like looking back, you're just talking about how it was a blur. Like the days didn't feel like a blur. The whole year felt like a blur.
Yeah, I do think the whole year felt like a blur, man.
Yeah.
Especially so for me, I remember soon after a couple months after this podcast, I ended up moving back to New York, and that was like the time period from this podcast to when I moved was just like felt like a complete blur. And then New York itself was like it's a new type of blur. Obviously, I'm back with my family, seeing friends more often, but it's still within it. It's like isolated as a entire block of time that felt very similar to itself, rather than like you said, there's like a variety and like your day to day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so strange.
And
I guess I'm really excited to hear more about like what we were talking about, what we had planned for this time that we were quarantined.
Yeah. With this
I remember maybe a week and a half ago trying to walk down to one of my go-to spots, and just to see that they have a sign up that they're closed until April 19th at the time, that is what it said. So and then I look around, I see like all these other businesses just like completely abandoned and just like real desolate looking. So it definitely gave that vibe of like, well, this is real. This is not like a joke that it's gonna go away like after like 2 days. It's something that clearly all these businesses are taking seriously, because those are the people, honestly, the small businesses that they're taking the biggest hit out of.
Definitely.
And so it's tough for sure to see. As far as how I'm managing though, like I mean, food fortunately hasn't been as like shortage as I've heard in other places. I've been able to get what I need. I've ordered some snacks off Amazon before I even tried to go to a grocery store, because I was just concerned with being able to get anything if I even went.
Yeah.
But the Vons that's by my house actually was fairly well stocked when I went. There's clear there were clear things that people were prioritizing, like toilet paper towels, and
people are hoarding toilet paper.
They're hoarding, and rice too. I tried to get some a bag of rice, but there's no bags of rice. I had to get like one of the smaller boxes, and
rice, bread. Like all the carbs are just gone, because that's the stuff that keeps.
But you know what carb was still there? Potatoes, and that's something that I'll definitely go back for.
There you go.
Newsflash, I didn't go back for potato salad. And I'd rather fucking starve and eat a potato right now. The fake news and if we're
there. And you know what? And generally speaking, most of the other things that I needed were there too. So like I said, the supply shortage wasn't as prominent. And I think if there is even more increased spread of the disease in my area, I want to be able. I think I'm gonna try to get food stocked up beforehand sometime in the next couple days. So then, if something happens in the next couple weeks, then I'll be prepared. Um, so yeah,
Now,
that's as far
isn't
as what's
LA
going.
shelter in place, right? Is you
It's
guys have been in that for a while,
yeah, it's
or is that
like
gone?
a stay. Yeah, it's like stay at home. I think that's the name that they
I,
gave
I
it.
love like how like
So
unsure I was of the name. Like if it's like, see,
yeah,
I might
I
have
don't
like
think
that
that.
now.
See, I'm not sure about the exact details,
There's a lot of
but
terrorists being
I'm
around.
I'm someone that's been pretty cautious regardless, and there are days where I just never leave the house.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so so and even if I do, let's see, maybe it's like go to the laundry room that's in our apartment. So it's like I'm not leaving the premise
Yeah,
of
you're just
the area.
inside most of the time.
Exactly, exactly.
Hmm.
Um, but I will say though, I think at night when no one else is around, like I going for a walk just to like get some sanity while like in my apartment area, like that definitely helps.
Oh yeah, you definitely need to get some fresh air and exercise a little
Yeah,
bit, you know.
yeah. So what's it like been for you, man?
Well, thankfully, I don't live in the city or like that close. So I've been living out in Long Island with my immediate family, so my parents and my brother, and that's been good. So there's been enough food for the most part. Like the supermarkets aren't that packed. It's mostly the city that's really getting hit from and upstate New York, from what I understand. Uh,
Is that true?
and
Like I
in terms of going
remember
outside,
a big reason why I felt really down during the pandemic was I would be constantly reading news on like what was going on and like was like on Twitter and like just seeing all this doom and gloom. At there, one second, can we close the window back over? Yeah, so I remember like reading a lot of the news, and I probably had read that somewhere on the news, and you know, news usually, they no, not necessarily. It's more that it blows things out of proportion, right? I'm sure that there were spots where it was like pretty hard, and there was definitely probably a food shortage, or they wouldn't have reported it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't remember how accurate that was. It probably was accurate for some spots.
Yeah.
And for you personally, or for me personally, it was mostly okay. I think we were rationing toilet paper at one point, yeah, which was weird. Thought, but for food and everything else is completely fine. Yeah, go back high school.
I kind of just go out and walk my dog, and that is the extent of me going outside. um, Going for a walk throughout the day, maybe, and I haven't, don't really see a lot of people. Just kind of stay inside. I'm either working my day job, or I might be doing something like playing games or talking to people on the computer and stuff like that. So it's not like I didn't do those things before. Now it's kind of I'm doing those things more frequently because I'm always at home.
Yeah, I totally agree with
Yeah.
that. I think it just amplifies things that you would have done at home. Then you just do it more often. Um,
Yes.
now let me ask, what do you think is like the biggest problem that you face in your day to day life because of this entire situation?
Like you said, when the days are kind of blending in together, and I honestly didn't really realize that it's been we're going to week 3 of the quarantine, um, and me not leaving my place. So that has been kind of a struggle, and kind of like really planning out what my days are looking like, because everything kind of feels the same.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it Obviously there were like some challenges from working from home in terms of it's work mode right now. I'm busy. Can't like talk to the family or like do certain things. Have to get certain things done, and that I've been for the most part pretty on top of. It's just like, okay, these are the stuff I have to do, and I'll go do it. I think more so in planning my own personal time, because now I just have, I guess, an abundance of it, and it's like, okay, with this time, I should kind of plan stuff or kind of maybe learn a new skill or like try some hobbies and stuff like that. So that's something I've been more experimenting. I think the hardest part might have been really kind of keeping up with in terms of physical activity since all the gyms are closed. And
Oh, dude, totally. I think
yeah,
that's probably my biggest, my most difficult challenge. That's been going to the gym because I don't even want to go to the gym that's in our apartment complex.
it's open.
I don't even know if it's open because I haven't even dared walk and find out, to be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, and before that, before this whole quarantine thing, I was going to the gym consistently, and I was like making good progress. So now
Yeah.
because of the slowdown, it's definitely hurt me in that regard. So the challenge definitely has been trying to how do you address that, and how do you work out at home, and make sure that you can at least get some sort of exercise in, even if it's not at the level that you might get with weights.
Yeah, there's definitely I've seen like a lot of videos on YouTube about like at home workouts and
I would go to
uh
like, so it was like a 3-floor apartment, and then in between like units there would be like, there'd be open space that you could go to, and like I would go like during like morning hours or times where there was like low, not anyone around.
Yeah.
I would like go there and like just do like dips or like cab raises or lunges, anything I could think of, and some push-ups, stuff to stay active, as
Stay safe.
yeah. But it was, I don't think, if I was in a situation though, if where not only was I isolated into my house, like I couldn't go outside because of like the weather or something, or like if there was too many people around, then I think that would have been even harder for me to work out, just working out in my apartment. So I was glad that I was able to at least be outside and have some sort of like nature around that I can like work out around.
Yeah, the environment mattered a lot.
kind of like no equipment workouts and stuff like that. And some of them are pretty decent. So that's kind of just been something like I've been trying to do, like calisthenics, push-ups, sit-ups, whatever. Want to do more running, definitely. But now that we're talking about the stuff that we want to do and we could do, I guess this is a good segue into kind of telling people how you can make the best of your time in quarantine.
Yeah, so I think what you talked about with trying to plan out days, I think that's kind of where it starts, because you have so much unstructured time now. Even if you're working from home, like it's not the same as like obviously, like I'm sure you can attest to this, when you have a 9 to 5 schedule and the place you have to be at, where it gives you that structure of what your day is going to look like. So I think trying to create some sort of structure that you set for yourself is probably not like would be step number.
Still true today.
Yeah, that felt
Timeless wisdom.
Yeah, so in terms of like working from home, I kind of try to keep my day similar to how my work day would be. Like I come to the office around 9 o'clock. I make sure to get like a morning coffee and like read the news a little bit and then like ease my way into it. And then same thing, I still take lunch at the same time and I still sign off at the same time. So it kind of is the same in terms of that. And just really what I found about working from home, and for other people that are working from home, you can also implement this, is really getting into the work mode in terms of like getting ready and like getting dressed into your outside clothes or whatever, and not actually going to work in your PJs, because then I've done that and then I feel like, oh, I'm at home, I'm not really working, and then it doesn't become like the most
I still do that.
Yeah, no, I can't work with my fucking like pajamas on, or if I'm like dressed comfortably, I'm gonna act comfortably, and I feel like you can't be productive if you're like too comfortable. That it's the mental shit. It's a mental shit for sure. So no, I think that's one of these pieces of advice that would apply even today.
Pretty cool. 3 years, man. 3 years, still doing it.
And the whole pandemic later, it's still valid. So, by the way, how consistent were you with the whole, like, you had like a routine? They try to emulate your office routine at home. Like, how successful were you with that?
I think it was pretty consistent. I think I did less work overall, but I think most people were doing less work overall because of the whole situation. And it really wasn't that bad. I think it was just a weird time for everybody. Everybody was kind of flexible in how things are being handled.
Right. Yeah. I think I would assume like companies were a little more forgiving back then because it was like
nobody knew what was going on.
Yeah. So there was a lot less, more leniency that was being deployed.
Yeah, I remember they would have these dates that said we're going to be back in office this day, and then they would push it back another 3 months, and they push it back another 3 months, and then at this time they're like, we're gonna hold off indefinitely. Just stay tuned.
Yeah.
Damn.
So by
that's such good advice because I totally feel the same way. If you don't wear,
we should just let them finish.
Should have. All right, this is like work time. It actually makes such a dramatic effect for me personally. If I'm wearing pajamas and trying to do work, like my legs for sure were gonna be crossed on top of the chair instead of like feet planted on the ground as if they would be in an office. And like you're just in that mindset of like, all right, let me just go click off Google Docs and Slack for a second and just check out some YouTube, and YouTube leads to like, oh, let me open up this game, just play for a little bit, and then like next thing you know, you're on your TV and not even in the same room anymore, and then like it's like 5:30 and you're like, damn it, what just happened? So dressing, I think that the whole like the underlying principle behind that is like you have to try to emulate the conditions of your regular work schedule as much as possible.
Yeah, definitely. You need to really get into that kind of mindset that's saying like, I am here to work and I'm going to work.
Yeah, I totally feel that. So yeah, I think so like we said, structure. That's the first thing you want to try to do and try to emulate those what the day-to-day is like. And I'm sure it helps when you have a team that you're working with, so you have to work at similar hours.
Yep.
So that's definitely one thing that helps keep you accountable to it. And if you're someone like me where you don't have coworkers, I think like theoretically, and I'm not doing this right now, but I know that this works. Like having some sort of accountability person that like, all right, you're gonna work at the same time, even if you're not working on the same thing, just so you know, like, all right, this person is like monitoring my.
It's the mental state that you're in. It's like, all right, they're working, so I'm working. It's like the same idea of when you go to the coffee shop and you see people working around you, or you go to a library, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, these people are working, so I should be working too.
Exactly. Yeah, you feel that like social pressure and then social pressure in this sense is like more positive and like useful. So you feel that need to do what everyone else is doing because they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and you definitely want to be what you're supposed to be. You don't want to be that guy that's dragging the whole team down per se.
Yeah, definitely.
This, I think, I was like in theory this sounded good, but I wasn't something I was able to implement much during that time.
Yeah.
And I think again, maybe it would have been different if someone I knew that was also working, like regardless of what they're working on, was working in the same proximity as me, but obviously proximity was an issue, like being in person was an issue for all of us back then. So it's a little different when you're trying to recreate it in a digital way. And it's not something I really, honestly, I didn't prioritize enough to like try and like, okay, let me hit up Alice. So let's like, why don't we work at the same time? Also, we have a 3 hour time difference, so that didn't help.
Did not.
It did. So this is actually advice I did not end up taking myself.
Yeah, well, that's why the podcast almost kind of fizzled out. Also, it was just a really weird time. Like, I think I felt the same way where a lot of my high aspirations, especially in the beginning, and this happens a lot, and not just in the beginning of any like new time, you sometimes are like very highly motivated. And you have these big goals, and it's okay to have those big goals, but especially with this situation, it just fizzled out completely just because the pandemic was longer than any of us really expected.
Yeah.
And it kind of affected, I guess, both of us in like a pretty negative way, where we were just separated from people and became a lot more productive.
Yeah, there's like a demoralizing aspect of with the environment and the conditions. I like so like you're like constantly reading the news and like you're seeing like this negative stuff about like the spread and like the return to work day getting pushed back even further and further.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder, well, what is that actually going to
It
end?
was just so uncertain.
Yeah.
Like nobody knew anything. I remember there was the coronavirus like website, the spread website, and like those numbers would just keep going up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also sometimes like they'll tell you one thing like, oh, like it's gonna be done in 2 weeks and done in 2 months. So like your expectation was always like, oh, it's just gonna be over soon.
Yeah.
And then it's just it just wasn't.
Yeah.
And I think that was hard for a lot of people. I think that's part of the reason why it was hard for us to do something that like even if there was no pandemic, like, you know, do something like a podcast that is like an extracurricular that it takes effort and it's not like we're getting an immediate return on it at the time. So it's pandemic or not, like there's a level of challenge there, and then the pandemic on top of that just made it like honestly untenable, and that's why this is like the last episode before.
We are also in a very different headspace.
Yeah.
Like them. I think we were thinking that this podcast is something that we really want to pursue, and we were doing like almost weekly episode.
Yeah.
And we're putting out articles, we're putting out blog posts.
I want to give everybody some separate videos too. I remember with them.
Yeah, we're doing like videos by ourselves too, and we were like putting a lot of effort into it. It was just we had a completely different idea of what this would be,
Right.
and I think that also, since we were really pretty passionate about it then, that the pandemic really like derailed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think is another tip that people can use to try to stay productive during these times?
Yeah, so I think not in terms of just I guess working like professionally. You can also kind of we've talked a lot about different types of self-improvement habits in terms of taking up reading, taking up like self-reflection. So that could be in journaling, that could be in meditation, that could be in I guess like talking with your friends. Also, it's like very therapeutic, and it's also socializing while social distancing. So a lot of these things is kind of like self-care. So, you know, it's easy to kind of let yourself go and be like, okay, I don't actually have to see anybody. I don't need to keep up an appearance or really take care of myself. It's like, no, now more than ever, you really should to really take yourself and make this time like a glow up period, if you will. So some things that I've been doing. I've been. No problem. Yeah. Yeah. So. I've been doing that. I mean, I've
This is what I'm talking about.
That's hilarious.
Been reading Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Almost done. Pretty good book. A lot of relevancy in terms of just success principles. But I think I want to more hammer on.
I think I was listening to that book at some point, and before the pandemic, I was like listening to audiobooks a lot during my commute. Yeah, I remember that. Funny enough, like me saying like all this self-care stuff, I still do this today. Right, I still journal consistently. I read a lot. I read a lot more. Yeah, so pandemic law. Let's go.
Yeah. You're on the ball on the.
2020 Alex knew what's up.
They did know what's up. So I remember at that time, I think journaling is something I do. I've kept up since then, and but reading was something that I haven't been consistent with. There was a time when in 2020 during the pandemic for like the first few months before I moved back to New York. I remember I read like The Alchemist and like some Melinda Gates book and like some other books that I wanted to read, like Deep Work and Solar and Not Giving stuff. I would read and reread those books more, and I actually had I should build myself like a little like a book tracker where I have like a list of all my books and like how many pages I was into each book.
Oh, that's cool.
So I would see like the progress. So found myself having that as a habit during this particular time of our lives, and like within the few months of this podcast. But then after that, it's fucking a lot. So it is what it is.
trying things that you haven't done before, and also reaching out to people and like doing social stuff online. So I don't know about you, but have you been like keeping in touch with people and really, like social gatherings while not actually being together? Have you been doing something along those lines?
Yeah, so I definitely try to keep in touch with people that I mean, I have my usual people that I try to keep in touch with, but even other people that I might not talk to as often, try to reach out to them.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
yeah, like I feel like this is like kind of a time where everyone's like you kind of know where the other person's at, even if they're but when things are normal, they're at different. We're all in different parts of our lives and doing different things. But now, kind of everyone's kind of in the same boat. So you have that off the bat. You have that mutual thing that you can just jump parlay off of and go into like, hey, it's been a long time. Felt like we should connect.
Yeah, that's definitely something that is really good advice, is reaching out to people that you kind of been meaning to talk to. Now, like you have a lot of time to actually catch up and, see what they're doing. And I'm sure that they also have a lot of time themselves considering the situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you end up actually doing that?
I think I did. I don't remember who I reached out to, but I remember consciously making an effort to reach out to people I hadn't talked to, and like remember the whole craze of like Among Us and
Yeah.
so that would be something like we would do.
Yeah, like play games, so thing.
We'd play like Tabletop Simulator, or like Catan Online, or just hang out, or Discord and just chat, or like viewing parties were also a thing.
Yeah.
Watch like a movie together.
Yeah.
Or Zoom, and you would sync the play button.
Yeah. There was a Netflix Google Chrome extension that would let you like make the watch parties, and so yeah, I do remember doing that. I also don't remember. I know that I reached out to people. I don't remember who I reached out to. Honestly, it's been so long. I know one person that I did reach out to. Not, I think maybe before I moved back to New York. I'm not sure exactly when, but it was my roommate, current roommate Zach. So we like reconnected. I saw him last in 2019 because he came to LA over the summer. I think it was the same summer you came.
Yeah.
It was like maybe like a month or two later. So then I was like, I hit him up. I was telling him like, yeah, I'm coming back to New York, and like we should hang out, reconnect. And we ended up, and then we were talking about like working out together. So I ended up like getting back on my fitness grind once I was in New York. Because I was, because of Zach, so I was able to like go work out with him. His place in our hometown had a community clubhouse that had a gym in it and gym equipment in it. So I was able to go there and like work out with him, and that actually got me out of the quarantine fitness spot. Being able to have something to work out with and also have like equipment available to use, because I wasn't going to a gym at the time. So shout out to Zach, who actually interrupted our fucking podcast by walking in here. But yeah,
we love Zach.
Yeah, someone who you might have been super busy before. Now like, all right, they definitely have more time to offer than they would have. So yeah, definitely take advantage of that. Yeah. So on a similar note, I want to also say that this is a good time to build skills that you think would be useful for when things go back to normal. Yep. Obviously, the economy has been in shambles because of like businesses not operating and people not going out and consuming and whatnot. But there is going to be a time where they're going to be ready to people are going to be free to go back to work and start spending money. And the economy is going to go back up again, and companies want to start hiring more rampantly. So you want to be ready for that, especially if you're someone that's looking for a job. That was
I should have bought Bitcoin back then. It was like 3,000 per coin, and I saw it, and I was like, oh, is it really? Maybe crypto's dead forever. And then this shit has shot up to like 60,000 at one point. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. That's just my personal finance and frustration. But do you have anything similar, like, oh, I should have invested in X company during the pandemic?
Should have bought more Apple.
Right,
Yeah, but It's okay.
Yeah.
If it is what it is, you know how it is. It's not a big deal.
The middle of a job hunt. Like I know one of our friends, he's been looking for a job, and this job hunt doesn't really stop because of the quarantine. If anything, it just gives him more leeway to go harder onto the job hunt so that he could be prepared for when that next opportunity comes.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you can spend all this time really like watching Netflix and playing games and, hanging out online. And that's good. Like, you really should kind of do that to keep your sanity. But it's also a good time to, invest in certain skill sets that you want to have or might be valuable to you in your career. So, like, there's a lot of free courses in terms of computer science, like on Free Code Camp is an example, Code Academy. These are things that, like, if you want to learn how to code, you can, and they have courses taught by Ivy League professors for free. So that's something that you can learn. There's also plenty of content online. So in terms of YouTube, like there's also course sites like Udemy or Coursera. So there's basically a course for anything that you could ever want. It's online, and
So very interesting here is I remember, so I had just gotten my job. So what, if we're in March, that means I was 6 months into my first job after graduating, and my mind was still very much in the interview mode. So I remember doing all of this, like learning for interviews, interview prep, and like getting all the resources I needed to look for a job. So that's why at this point I'm talking about like all the stuff that you could do. And I actually did a lot of those things. And then I ended up doing that again when I later changed my job, I guess like a year or so later.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting that like where I was and like what I was thinking about. I remember thinking about that. I remember doing these things.
Yeah. This is advice coming from practice, like that you implemented yourself. Oh, that's cool. And I was thinking along the lines of when you're mentioning these, the idea of using this time to build yourself up, build up skills. I think this is also one of those things that are timeless and like this still applies now, especially when we're in like the similar. We're having like a recession now with the economy, so it's like so people, they're still like the job market is not as bad as it was in COVID, I guess, but like people are still out of work. But I think it's easy to let blame the circumstance on like why you're not finding like that new opportunity, but you still have an option to like use these resources and build up your skills and become more of an inexpendable. My personal philosophy is like if you're truly inexpendable to a company, like they're gonna do what it takes to keep you.
Yep.
And if you prove yourself, it's been true for my career, and I'm sure it's been true for many people that can have the results to back up like that they're a valuable contributor. You shouldn't feel job insecurity, and I think like building up your skills and then making the best of a bad situation which is the theme of this podcast, really.
Yeah.
That is about like a valuable way to spend your time.
Yeah. It's self-started.
Yeah.
Really gotta, depend on yourself sometimes, and all of the skills that you accumulate. That's something that like nobody can take from you.
Right.
And you can learn something new and apply it to your life to make it a little better.
Yeah, like, I mean, think about it like this. Wouldn't you want to be someone... Well, most people, I would say, are going to be worse off after this, after we get back to normal than they were before this coronavirus thing happened. Wouldn't you want to be someone that put in the work right now to be better off than you were even before all this coronavirus stuff happened? Someone with more skills, more tools, more discipline than they had before?
Yeah, definitely. And I guess that's the kind of the beauty of more time, is that you have the time and to work on these things and really, I guess, hunker down on the stuff that you find is important. And if it's important, now you have the time to work on it.
Yeah, that excuse is gone. Now, speaking of something that can hinder you while you're at home? Like how's it been like being around your like your folks?
Well, one thing that just came to mind is one of the reasons I feel like the podcast died out is it goes back to the whole thing of like our days feeling like a blur.
Yeah.
We're not like really, there's not much new things going on in your life. Like it's like all like routine and like it's hard to get. It was hard to extract new insight and inspiration for new podcasts when things isn't this like dull and like like very monotonous.
Yeah.
So and it's not to say that there wasn't things that like we could have talked about. I just think that the inspiration was hard to find at that time.
Yeah, definitely. I think so too. It was just our time, and I don't really fault any of us for kind of dropping it.
We're back.
We're back. Yeah.
So much these days.
I mean, it's good in terms of like, I guess, family dynamic, right? Like, we'll speak to each other in the morning, and then kind of when work starts, it's just like, okay, I'm working, and then we're all working from home, so we all close our doors and we don't talk to each other, and then come lunchtime, we're like, oh, we'll chat what's on the news or whatever. Same with dinner time, but nothing like we're not driving each other crazy, right? It's just like, okay, we kind of do our own things. We like watch TV or watch a movie or something like that. Nothing crazy. It's just getting by in this tough time. How about you? Because you're living alone, right? So how is that? And do you have any advice on how to, I guess, deal with that?
I think well, my advice kind of depends on what type. If you're like someone who's like craves social, like physical social contact, then I don't really have advice for you because I'm pretty okay with being alone. And generally speaking, I mean, my girlfriend comes over like once every week, which so like it's not like where I'm completely just alone, but on the other 6 days of the week, I'm pretty much just like in my house. Like I like being in my own space. I think I'm totally okay with just being alone. So it's not really a problem. So I think if for someone who it is a problem for, I don't have advice for you. I'm sorry, this is the wrong podcast.
Well,
maybe Joe Rogan has something to say about this, but I don't.
If you're alone, like we said, you should reach out to people, right? So reach out to people that you haven't spoken to in a while, or people that you usually speak to, and kind of check up on them. And there's a lot of social activities that you can still participate in, even though they're online. You guys can like watch a movie together, so it's kind of like going to the movies. If one of you guys like streams a movie and then you all watch it together, it's like you're all watching it at the same time. Yeah, it's just that commonality and like that human touch to the things that you're doing, because it can be a little maddening if you're really not talking to anyone. And also something like, I don't know if you do this, but I definitely do, is like playing games with people. So online games have been, and this could be anything, and there's a game for any type of person out there, and even playing board games, right? So one of my friends actually like had his phone out and it was like videotaping a board game, and then we were each like taking turns. It was like a cooperative board game. So stuff like that. You can get creative. I saw a video where they were saying that if you really like had something important that you want to work on, and you might not have the resources right now, but you can be creative with how you want to do things and kind of come out, as you said, out of this quarantine better than you were before. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that.
Side note, can you explain to the viewers like what exactly are the post-its on your wall there?
So at the turn of 2020, I had watched a video. It was like a motivational video saying that 10 years ago you were in X position, but now it's been 10 years and now you're here. And so it was talking about how 2020 is your decade, and you can make 2020 your decade. and I listed a bunch of characteristics or things I wanted to work on through the year and through the decade. I think that says physical, mental, capital, people, and character.
Yeah. I thought it said purple, but I think people misunderstand.
Yeah, so physical was like my physical health, and mental is my mental health. Capital was like my career. People was, I guess, like my relationships with my friends and my family. And character was more of my, like who I was as a person and my self-identity. I've since taken down those post-its,
Yeah.
but I guess with time, I have improved, I think, in all of those regards.
Right.
Been great. Yeah, it was just something like a vision board almost. So
Yeah.
people will put up goals or things they want to achieve and have them in front of you. And just that constant reminder kind of pushes you forward. We kind of makes you think more about what you're trying to achieve and like what you want to focus on.
Right. I think this is actually a good framework for when we after we react to it, then we talk about what's happened since then.
Yeah.
We could look at these 5 categories and both talk about how we've changed.
Sounds good.
In that time. So actually, this actually reminds me of the topic that I wanted to touch on before that I completely brain farted on was the idea of like being okay with being alone at that time. I think it's different for me now, especially given this past 15 months where I've been like really going out of my way to like socialize and meet new people. I've met like I've had so many new people come into my life and like had really strong connections with some of them. I would say that if I knew at that time like how valuable like those connections could be, I might have changed my answer about like how being okay with being alone. I imagine like if I had this like what I have now before COVID happened, and then having been forced to like let go of all that for like the duration that we did, I think my answer would have been a lot different. I would have been more like bummed out by the fact that I can't like continue to deepen those interactions and see consistently, go to my classes, like go to these events and like hang out with people and stuff. So yeah, I think that's something that came up to mind when I was listening to myself talk and reflecting on who I am now.
Yeah, and definitely like grown as a person to, I guess value those relationships more.
Yeah.
I think in that regard, it's still also important because I feel that as we have grown older, you tend to spend more time alone. And that's like the type of the person that you'll spend the most time with is yourself, or especially coming out of like your higher education, where you're surrounded by people all the time. There will be, I think, as you grow older, you just see friends less frequently, and you should still learn to be comfortable being alone.
Right. No, which I agree with. I think that's still an important skill, and I think me having that from back then is like it still applies. Where like I don't like I'm someone that's like okay with I'm like okay with being alone. It's just like not. It's just not, now I can operate in both paradigms where it's like, in a self.
Just needs to be found.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
That's a great point where often, sometimes it's better to be restricted so that you're forced to be more creative than you would have been if you had all the resources and normal things in your life going on. You really are put into a different out of the box situation, and you have to think of out of the box solutions to the problems that you might encounter or want to overcome.
Definitely.
So have you been doing anything new, would you say, in terms of hobbies or interests during this time?
Watching TV. I'm one that doesn't actually watch a lot of TV. So now I've taken up that hobby. Other things that I've done, I've started playing more different types of games with people. I've been reaching out to like my friends from study abroad a lot, and so because we're all working from home, so we can chat more often. In terms of the more productive space of things, I've still been reading consistently, so that's been good. I've recently taken up looking at courses, so I'm kind of like slowly learning Golang on Udemy
I did not
course.
learn Golang. I bought a course. It's a programming language that Google made, and I remember buying a course and going through the first like 2 or 3 chapters of it, and then I dropped it.
Do you remember why?
I just wanted to do it. There was no other reason for it.
Oh, okay. So it's just like a more just like
It was like a personal interest. It's like I should try learning something new.
Oh.
Golang is pretty interesting because I had seen it used by some developers at my job at the time. And I was like, this is pretty interesting. I mean, hey, take a look at it. And then I'm like, I'd rather do something else.
Right. Yeah, and I think that goes back to when you're doing something and it doesn't feel like there's a connection between that and like maybe your other goals or like there's a higher purpose behind it. It's hard to find the motivation to keep doing it. There is something to say about doing something for the sake of like completion, but I think when you think about as you get older, your time becomes more scarce, and like the opportunity cost of pursuing something, it starts to get greater because you think about all the other days you'd be spending your time on, then the choice becomes you have to be more cutthroat about what you decide to cut out of your life. And I don't think that makes you a quitter. I think this makes you tactical with your time. You bet something that values their time, they're not gonna waste it on something that they don't see like a higher purpose for.
Yeah, 100%. And still needs to be a balance with everything. Sometimes there are things that you should stick to, right? Especially like if it's difficult. I think a perfect example, I think we've always come back to this example, is fitness.
Yeah.
Like fitness is sometimes difficult, especially like being disciplined, going to the gym, maintaining a diet and stuff like that.
Spartan race.
We did do a Spartan race recently. Pretty difficult, but well worth it. But my point here is that just because you may not be feeling it, the long-term benefits of it is probably better for you, and like worth the investment, worth the time investment.
Right. Yeah, I would say that's a good caveat, because something like fitness is like, again, you see the long-term benefit of that.
Yeah.
So there is an incentive, even if it's so when you feel like quitting, are you quitting because it's just difficult at the time, or are you quitting that there's truly no benefit in the long run? Yeah, what you want to do with your life.
And only you can really decide what that is.
Right.
So, you have to kind of have that honest conversation with yourself on like, is this really aligning with the things that I want to be or the things that I want to do in the future?
Right.
Yeah.
Like fitness, obviously, it's on your board. So like, physical, like that makes sense. That why it was worth pushing through the pain versus something like the Golang thing.
Yeah.
There was no, you didn't see how it fit into like the other, like the spy buckets that you're talking about.
For career capital, like Golang, maybe in another, if I pursued a career that actually utilized that language, it would have made more sense. But even today, I don't use Golang.
Right.
So there wasn't much usage there. If I wanted to do a side project that maybe used it and then pursue opportunities that at companies that use it, then it would make more sense. But for me, it didn't make sense now or back then.
Right.
But kind of on that front, it's just, taking the days as they come by and kind of little stuff, right? Still working and have my day job, and if you aren't as fortunate to have a job to work on, like you said, you can build those skills for when this finally, and it does eventually pass over.
It did eventually.
Has anything new really been going on for you in terms of like skills or career development or habits and self-discipline?
Well, as starting with hobbies, I would say also reading. I haven't been reading consistently in a long time, but now I've been reading books like The Alchemist, and I've actually find myself enjoying it. And not to say that it's surprising, but it's not something that I expect. If I was to plan out the year in the beginning of the year, I wouldn't have said like, oh, in March I would have been reading and as a hobby. So that's been cool. I actually like reading while doing some stretching on a yoga mat.
Oh, that's good.
I find that that's like a good way to do two things at once and do two good habits at once. So that's been
This is a like small side note on this one. This actually was like very useful to do the stretching while I was reading, and doing both at the same time was a good way to basically you're like supersetting the like two good habits. So that's something that I want to try to bring back, because right now I'm like doing my stretches independently unless something else. So it's like stretching plus like listening to a podcast, or stretching, or like even if you're doing something recreational, watching like, I don't know, like a sports game or anything like that. I think the stretching will keep keep that discipline while you're doing something that's maybe more leisurely.
Yeah.
It's been a good way for me to get in the exercise on top of getting the pages in.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Yeah.
I kind of do the same thing. I have an audiobook playing and do some stretching.
Yeah, and as far as career stuff goes, so my schoolwork is actually so I've been taking online classes for a marketing certificate I've been doing, and so that hasn't really changed how that's approached on a day-to-day basis. But recently I finished recently all the UCLA courses have transferred to online. So there's a where am I going with this? Okay, that was a pointless fact, but
all the schools are online. Everything's online.
Everything is online, which you probably all knew. But I feel like I've been figuring out more ways. I've been like fine-tuning my productivity system is what I meant to say, as far as how do I get this schoolwork done. So I'll give you an example. What I like to do is break down each of the final projects into sections, and then so if there's like 5 main sections, I figured out that, all right, I should make those 5 main sections, break those down into the 3 main subsections that are in each category. And then for each subsection, I have a progress bar that shows what percentage of it is done, what percentage of it is left. And then all these things like add up to how much of the entire full project is done. So then what I realized is that it gives me a more accurate assessment of how far I'm through a project than just being like, oh, it's either done or it's not, or like I'm halfway done, and then, or like giving like a ballpark. Now it feels more fine-tuned, and I can kind of try to reach for milestones. So I'm like, all right, today I want to get from 26% of the project done to 50% of the project done. And so I can measure it and know that, all right, I'm getting closer and closer. So I have that motivation to keep working instead of like trying to just stop at some arbitrary point where I feel like tired or something.
Yeah, this is actually a very good thing that I did. And I kind of tried it. This is an attempt of me like hacking my psychology to understand like what would it like incentivize me to complete the work and like make it more, like get through the monotony of the work in a more fun way. So is the idea of gamifying the progress of it, and like really breaking down schoolwork into like granularly and as immeasurably as possible. Keep checking off those things and like seeing the progress build up, and like I said, mentioned here, making like little mini milestones of like getting from X% to Y% of project completion.
Do you still do this today?
Yeah, I still do it. It's not as extensive, because unlike schoolwork where like the outcomes are like very defined of what you have to do. Yeah, my work is more, it's more like, for not to use a pun, but like self-started. So I have to, like the end outcomes, like it's not as like defined of an outcome of like you'd have to do X amount of things in a constrained way. So it's harder to measure the exact like thing at the end of the day, but the principles behind them still apply. And I try to implement that into my productivity systems to like keep myself accountable. Like obviously, we've talked about like building up streaks. When you talk about building up habits, seeing those green check boxes like add up. Like there's like and like trying to get from like, okay, I'm about to hit 10 days. Like that's like a big milestone. And then like, continuing to reward yourself mentally and psychologically for doing those positive things as opposed to and like saying away the negative things. So I think the principle still applies.
Yeah, especially like habit formation, like repetitions really count. Right. Like how do you get to that automatic level of like, I just end up doing this all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of habits, so this last week I've been like waking up at 6 a.m. and every day.
Nice.
And actually last night my friend was asking me, like, hey, like, do I have to wake you up on non-business days too at 6 a.m.? And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I think it would be beneficial to do that because it's not like your biology just like knows, oh, it's a business day, so I have to wake up at this.
Exactly.
And then like on weekend, it's like, yeah, I could just chill. So I did wake up at 6 today as well, because I want to keep it going or make it more solidified as a habit, so like it's less likely to derail or like regress back to like what it was before.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So
is there a reason why you're trying to wake up early?
Yeah, I wanted to. I made like in addition to the wake up early thing, I wanted to complete all of my like deep work and like my workouts, like the most important stuff of my day before 12 p.m. And that in order to do that, I want to give myself adequate time. And I noticed that when you wake up early, like there's like you have more of that. It's just more peaceful, like in the morning before like things get really like hectic in the afternoon. So I wanted to capture that time for myself and be able to like go out on like a morning walk and like get my sunlight in, get some breakfast, and do my workouts early and just feel like I have the rest of my day ahead of me after I've done all my more like most important stuff.
Yeah.
So I try to reinforce that.
Yeah, so that's something that's been I've been experimenting with and trying to tinker with.
That's good. Yeah, I think that applies to a lot of any project, really, right?
Yeah.
To have measurable goals and keep them, I guess, break things down into smaller steps. So.
Oh, I didn't mention like how have you applied that same philosophy to like your work, or like how you approach like work projects or personal projects?
Yep. I think especially in software development, it's pretty typical to do that. So there are things called sprints, and a project will be broken down into something called a story, and there are tasks that contribute to the bigger story. So people will take up individual tasks. So I think that just by being in software and working in that kind of way, I've adopted just breaking down my bigger projects and bigger tasks into smaller goals. And still something I implement today.
Gotcha.
And
or did you guys just like Jira?
We have the internal mechanism, but it is basically Jira.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so I've used Jira before, and it's like it's kind of like a Kanban board type thing. And do you guys how long are your sprints?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah. So that's pretty standard right now. Like the engineering world, because I remember in my job that days, that's how our engineers was like agile.
Yep. We were agile. Yep.
Yeah. So that is actually a good representation of like trying to use, see the bigger picture built up by like these incremental steps and incremental tasks that people are doing to lead up to that. So
it's more easy to digest and work towards, right?
Yeah. Spreadsheets, everyone. I recommend it. And I actually, because of what I did with the schoolwork, I've been able to transfer that structure to like my other tasks. So it has provided a beneficial system optimization for me in all aspects of productivity.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's been good. Hopefully it continues, and it's definitely something that I would consider if to say that there's a silver lining maybe of this coronavirus thing, it would probably be like that would be probably one of the few. But like I said, we're trying to make the most of a shitty situation here.
Yeah, definitely. You just kind of have to get creative, right? And do what you can.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
All right, so I think we've talked a lot about what people can do, what we've done, and what's worked, and how we've managed. So I think, do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, kind of just like parting remarks is just, wash your hands, social distancing. If you do have to go outside,
I still do that today.
Yeah,
No way.
like not touching your face or keeping your distance away from people, and also
I know someone has a tough time not
sanitizing
touching my face and keep distance away from me,
often.
but yeah,
And
give me COVID.
for like the virus isn't, it's not actually that in terms of like deadly, right? It's deadly in individuals that have underlying health problems, and that's the problem, right? So don't think about it. It's just yourself. It's the people around you and the people that you love and care about. So just be safe, and we'll get through this. Yeah.
We got through it.
Yeah, guys, be safe. Remember, we're all gonna get through it, but we gotta get through it together. So stay strong. Use this time wisely, like we said, and we're hoping to talk about more productivity stuff in a different situation once things clear up and hopefully get better. So with that said, thanks for listening,
Thanks
and
again.
we are signing out, guys. Thank you very much. Take care.
Yeah. See you next time.
It is next time.
It is next time right now.
All right, there we go. Wow, that's crazy. That I think what's really weird is that when we were talking about things and then commenting about it and like recollecting what we were thinking about the time, we ended up touching on those points later on in the podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was. I think it just shows that how timeless the things that we were talking about were, like how relevant they were then, how relevant they are now. So I think it's safe to say we had some good advice on that podcast.
Yeah.
We're talking about some important stuff. So yeah, I'm not proud of the work that we did with SelfStarted back then, and I'm excited to even sitting here like in this new version of it and like being able to like reflect back on that. Like that's only one podcast of, and apparently we got like 18 of them. So
It blows my mind.
Yeah.
We had so many.
that's so this is like a very cool opportunity to bring it back, and both things flowed forward from there. So that was definitely a trip. Like it's such a difference. Like even looking at myself, I'm like, this is
look completely different.
look completely different, and and now knowing the experiences I've had since then, just like thinking about who I've become since that podcast, that's really it showed that like we did make
It was a lot of growth.
there was a ton of growth.
Then and that.
Yeah, there has been a lot of growth. So why don't we take like a 5-minute break, and then we can just come back and like talk about those those ways that we've grown since that Black podcast.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
cool. All right, guys, that was our self-started comeback episode. We are so excited to be able to have this opportunity to bring this thing back. I had a really fun time actually reacting to our last podcast. There was a lot of insights and a lot of nostalgia that came with it. And given how much we've grown in the 3 years since that episode, still great, by the way, like in the 3 years.
Absolutely insane that we recorded during the pandemic. We were able to look back and react to this.
Right.
Yeah.
So because there's been so much growth since then, there's like a lot of new insights that we've gained personally, professionally, and other aspects of our life that we can touch upon now. So I do want our next episode to be something of, along those lines of like talking about the growth that's happened.
Yeah, since then.
Yeah.
So I guess stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.
All right. Peace.